Okay, welcome everyone to our really what's become kind of a weekly event. And my name is Elisha Goldstein. I'm the founder of the Mindful Living Collective. It's a global leading network for mindful living and learning. And I just want to recognize everyone here for a moment. We have so many people here from around the world.
Welcome everyone to our.
Now this is going to.
What's become kind of a weekly event. And my name is Elisha Goldstein. I'm the
turn
founder of the
audio off
Mindful
on
Living
this
Collective. It's
because that's going to make an echo. I just want to recognize that if you can sense into this for a moment, that right now, in this moment, there are hundreds of people around the world right now who are gathering together with the intention of understanding better how to bring a practice into their lives, into all of our lives, that is more lasting, that's more impactful. And if we just look to everyone right now, we have people here right now from London, the UK, from Turkey, from the East Coast of the United States, and Massachusetts, and Chicago, and Pennsylvania, and Virginia, and more the Midwest, and Kansas, and it's Father's Day in Germany right now. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers in Germany right now. And we have people here from Newcastle, Washington, and in California, my backyard, and from Portugal, and again, more people on the East Coast and South America and Spain and Wales. I mean, just as I'm naming these places, just imagine them like lighting up in your mind of people all around the world who are interested in mindful living, of bringing this more into their lives in Boise, Idaho, and Boston on the East Coast, and in Canada, the East and West Coast of Canada, and Colombia. So again, Central America and South America, and from Italy and the Cayman Islands. And I'm sure I skipped over some people in India right now. And we oftentimes have people from a variety of places in Africa. Thank you for the big hug, Federico. In Argentina, make sure to shout out to the Grand Caymans. Oh, okay. And then Aaron said, okay, wonderful, beautiful. South Carolina, Texas, where my wife is from. And so just imagine these places lighting up in London, just imagining them. I'm just kind of lighting up places all around the world right now. So incredibly beautiful. All of these hearts right now, if you just imagine like these minds and hearts, everyone kind of beating together, in this moment. And we're really a collective. And we're a collective of people that through our own practice. And today I'm going to be talking about just 5 things. And I may add a couple things over. We usually say this is about 30 minutes, and sometimes we bleed a little bit over because there's some question and answer that happens. And I want to make sure that you feel like you have space for that too in Israel. So please know that there'll be space for you during this time. So beautiful. And you're welcome to do that too, by the way. Just take kind of a collective deep breath, just to kind of shift where we were into this moment right now. I mean, this is a time, and I feel like I come here like weekly, and we say this similar thing, where this is a time of just what the world is just kind of trying to figure itself out. It's like this, it's still a time of uncertainty, and it's a time of waves of grief that are happening for a lot of people too. And then there's all these kind of newfound things that people are finding that they're enjoying about certain parts of life right now. But I wrote something last week called that mentioned this term called grief bombs, and it's really true. A woman who I work with kind of brought up this term, and so you might notice from time to time there's like these feelings that come where you might feel irritable or grumpy, or you might feel sad or down, or something just a little off and imbalanced in some way, and you might just recognize that as like, oh, this is a grief bomb. Many people are experiencing this during this time. There's a lot we're feeling right now, and a lot of anxiety and stress. I notice whenever anyone's writing right now about stress and anxiety, it's like, there's there's a lot of activity, around that. So today we're going to be talking about really 5 things that make a practice last, from my own experience, from my professional experience as a psychologist for the past couple decades, and as a mindfulness teacher, and from the people that I've worked with and known for many, many years, that have been really supportive. There's one major thing that is like a clincher to it all that I'll be mentioning as well. And a lot of this comes from, also, just so you know, the How to Meditate program, which is a program that mindful.org hosts, which is really what I would consider to be my most up to date, shorter type of program. But I'm going to give you some of that here, so you just kind of have it. So you're going to hear some facts. I'm going to be sharing some facts. I'm going to be sharing some stories. And just want you to just really, if you can, just be present into yourself, pay attention, and just listen. You're going to hear some things, maybe that might surprise you, or may give you an aha, or you might hear some things that you might say, oh yeah, I remember that. That was something that used to work for me, used to be helpful for me. And so if you really kind of listen and interact, and you're welcome to ask questions, you might feel like a remembering to something that was that works for you, or is important for you when it comes to making a practice that lasts. And when I say practice, obviously in here we're talking about mindful living, we're talking about meditation, and at the same time, this is like really relevant for any practice you want to do in your life. And so I want you to be aware of that. And for those of you who have just joined the Mindful Living Collective, also welcome. In there, you're going to find like a ton of wonderful like live events that we're doing, all the time, from educational interviews with people to other workshops other people are putting on, to music events, and these beautiful mindful living circles where people totally connect with each other and have this like embedded relational mindfulness experience for like 45 minutes. And so the fact is, right now, stress is rising. Meditation has been shown to allow us to use our mind to focus in a particular way that can actually change our physiology, that can help us get a handle on our stress, can help us turn anxiety and difficult experiences into implicit arousals of courage and strength and self-love, can turn a vulnerable moment into an opportunity to feel a sense of connection and self-trust. And so meditation offers this. It offers the ability to also focus in a particular way that increases a sense of connection and positive emotion in our lives. And that's studies that have been done by Barbara Fredrickson and Steve Cole at the University of North Carolina and UCLA. And many of you here have experienced some things like that, in your life with a variety of different meditation practice. But the question is, like, how do you make it last? How come in the research studies, when we look at the beautiful mindfulness-based stress reduction program, which to me was like a foundational secular program in the field of mindfulness, how come after 8 weeks people experience these great ahas and these wonderful experiences, but the practices don't really last? And there's some things that we have to understand, that we have to put in place, that are going to be really helpful for us in doing that. I know my own story, just to share something personal before we get into those 5 things, and we'll give a couple extra as well. When I was first starting a meditation practice, I remember I kind of sat down and someone said, hey, let's just sit down and breathe for 5 minutes. And I sat down and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And I thought, like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I feel like I'm just closing my eyes and like rolling thoughts around in my head. I didn't know what was happening. And it didn't really stick for me, at that time. And it wasn't until I started realizing, some certain keys, and that some of them were certain preparations for mindfulness and meditation that were so important, and just about every program doesn't teach it. which is shocking to me. But it's so important when it comes to doing anything in our lives, if we really want to do it with any kind of lasting effect. And so let me just kind of go, I'm just going to kind of jump in and go over, some of those. And these things have been enormously helpful to me in my life, and enormously helpful to thousands of people. Again, some of them, when you're listening to them, you might say like, well, yeah, no, I've heard an idea like that before. And the question is, what we want to do here today is, even if you've heard of some things, I just really hope what they do is it brings it top of mind. So it comes from like the back recesses of your memory and brings it top of mind. And then we can begin to integrate it and begin to bring it into your life in a way. So whatever practice you're trying to make happen in your life, that we can make it lasting. Because all the research and science, when it talks about all these great impacts on our neurology and our, the brain science that's out there, or these great aspects of like, wow, you can really reduce your stress and increase your well-being, or wow, you can really get a hold of your anxiety, or you can create more ease and calm in your life, or oh my God, you can like really transform your sleep. All these studies, it's done with people who have had a practice over time that's been consistent. That's just like anything. Wow, I really learned how to play the guitar and I'm really proficient at it. Well, that's because that person's been practicing every day or most days, for a certain amount of time. Of course, that's something we all know. We wish we could just kind of like do something like that, but it takes practice. That's all. So the question is, how do we make this practice last? And what's kind of been helpful for me in that way. So I'm going to share with you again a couple things from the How to Meditate course from mindful.org. I bring that course up because I want you to really know about it, because it's been created in a way that builds this in to it, which I think is unique to a program like that. There's whole sections, around the stuff we're going to be talking about today. So, okay. So the first thing I want to mention is, one of the things we don't ask ourselves before we're starting a practice, one that we want to make last in our lives, is, why are we doing it? So this is number one, right? Why do I want, okay, so I'm going to say meditation practice, but you can, if you're thinking of a different type of practice, a yoga practice, a guitar practice, something like that, you're welcome to insert that in here. But we're going to use meditation here because we're talking about mindful living meditation. But again, you can use this model of what I'm going to give you here just for about anything. Why? Why do I want to do this practice? In other words, feel free at this point to get really selfish. Okay to be really selfish here in this moment. Why do I want to do this? What am I going to get out of this? So allow yourself to envision for a moment, like, if I had a daily practice every day, let's just say, okay, 5 days a week, whatever is the practice you want to create. If I had a daily practice, what would be different for me? What would change? Can I visualize that? Like, what would I get out of that? If the answer is like, well, I'd feel more calm, I'd feel more ease, in my life, or I'd feel more control over my anxiety that's here. Or if I was able to have a consistent practice at bedtime, I would be able to meditate myself to sleep. If that was the case, if it's something like that, then visualize that and like see that. In other words, like, see that happening and see if you can, for a moment, kind of feel like what you're going to get out of it. Your brain needs to understand at an emotional level, like, why would I even pay attention to this thing? So like, there's a million things going on right now, right? In any given moment, your brain is like aware of all of these different things, but how much you're conscious of and selectively attending to depends on what your brain thinks is important in that moment. And so you have to, and your brain's going to use memories and emotional experience to tell it what's important to pay attention to in this moment. So you can influence that selective attention by first stepping back and doing a process of, why do I want to get into this in the first place? By the way, let me just say, a dream is being realized for me right now, and I want to share this with you. When I first started the Mindful Living Collective, what I was hoping was that we would put on events and people would eventually say something like, "Hey, are you going to go to this event? I'll meet you there, even though it's online. I'll meet you there, and I'll see you there." I'm seeing something here by Jody, who says, "Yay, Alana, tell us," and Lisa Richter, "I'm glad you made it. A shout out to both of you." So it's almost like we're all collecting in like one place, even though it's online. It's beautiful. I love that. Okay. Anyway, so the why. So for what you want to do right now, and we're not in the short time that we have, we're not going to like do a whole workshop on this, but you can do this part on your own. You can kind of just take a step back and like take like 20 minutes, grab a journal, or just like sit back and like let your mind roll on this, either way, and just answer that question for yourself. What am I going to get out of this? Why is this so important to me? What does my future look like if I had a regular practice? It wants to know that this is like really worth doing. This is really important. And there's two things that it's going to pay attention to. It's going to pay attention to either some avoidance of some real pain. These are drivers for our brain. Am I going to avoid some major pain that's there, or relieve some major pain, or relieve something from getting worse? Or am I going to like have something that's really amazing that's also going to be motivating me, to go in that direction? So why? Okay, so that's number one. Again, almost most mindfulness programs that I know out there, and believe me, I've been a part of a lot of them, and I love them to death and believe in them. And just really miss this. They don't get this, and it's really essential when it comes to motivating a regular practice. The second thing, and this is one that you're going to be familiar with, but again, what I'm hoping with this one is it really brings it top of mind and you take it seriously. It's important also to set a goal. I know, like when people in the field of mindfulness, in particular, but in other areas of your life, we kind of don't want this to be outcome oriented, in some way. Forget about the outcome. But your brain does work on goals, and so you do want to set a goal. And what I mean by that is you want to kind of make a plan that's specific. And you want to say something like, I want to meditate like 5 times a week. Again, you can use this for anything. You want to play guitar this many times a week for this many minutes. And then what you want to do is you want to ask yourself, because basically the reason for that, just so you know, is your brain needs to know a North Star. It needs to know where it's headed to be able to, you're telling it where to pay attention, right? And this is like the whole thing behind like use your mind to change your brain, right? Your mind is consciously saying, this is the direction we want to go in. And then you want to kind of back up and you want to ask yourself, oh, okay, so I know the destination. How am I going to get there? So I know what I want. Now the question is, how am I going to get there? And again, this part is not rocket science or whatever we want to say. And this part is not something you haven't even heard of before. But what I'm hoping is this brings it top of mind, because it's also important for creating a practice that lasts. How am I going to get there? So here's where we're kind of making a plan, right? So we're making a schedule. Maybe we're saying, okay, well, where can I fit this into my life? And, in a lot of other programs, I have people go through their daily, their days and look at what's nourishing and depleting and what's neutral. And we start kind of like swapping things out for depleting activities or neutral activities. Where is space in the day that I can put this, that I can really schedule this like a doctor's appointment? Do I need to set some kind of alarm or reminder for myself on this? And so with all of this, what we're talking about is really making a commitment to yourself. So why. You're making a commitment because of the why. And then you're telling yourself where you want to go. You're telling yourself where you want to go. Where's the goal? And then how am I going to get there? And then start to make a plan and a schedule around it. Like, this stuff is actually important to do. Some people are in the flow, say, I wake up every morning and I just drop in. Great. That's fantastic. So they've like made a schedule in their morning and that all works for them. But for many people, that's not really how their life works. And so you need to kind of make a schedule and make a plan. But first you need to know where you're going, and then how you're going to get there. What's the plan? That's it. Simple like that. So I wanted to give you that piece as a reminder to really take seriously, to kind of play with. But what most people do is they just make a schedule and but they don't know why they're doing it. They haven't gotten really clear with the why. That's why the number one thing is really why. Why gives us reasons. Reasons drive motivation. And we really need to understand that. Okay. Third thing, commit to less. So what does that mean? That means if I think I can do a 30-minute meditation every single day, then why not just commit to 15 or 20? If you really think you can do that for that amount of time, I want to set you up for success here. And so if you're going to commit to some higher amount, now this might be, this actual point might be surprising in some way, or might seem counterintuitive. Like you're saying, like, why don't you know, you got to reach for the stars here. You got to kind of, do that. What we want to do is we want to create success that builds on itself. So you feel like, wow, I can really do this. And then you can like add in increments, and so see if you can kind of commit to less. And that's okay. By the way, just so you know, I did a research study 2006, it was published in the Journal of Clinical Psychology called Sacred Moments, Implications on Well-Being and Stress. I gave people a 5-minute practice for 5 days a week, for 3 days a week, and it had statistically significant impacts on stress reduction, well-being. The qualitative interviews around it like showed the most important part of the whole thing was that people felt this connection to themselves and to something greater than themselves while they're doing the practice. So it's okay. And this is the part where you might have noticed in the kind of promo for this event, I said like why doing a shorter practice might be better. Because if you commit to a longer practice, sometimes we set ourselves up for failure, and we say, and then that gets us into our heads where we say, well, I knew I couldn't really do this. Oh, forget it. It's not for me. Commit to less. If you're like, you're doing some kind of like app or something and it's like 10 minutes a day and you're like, okay, yeah, I think I can do 10 minutes a day. Well, you go ahead and shoot for 5 minutes a day. Okay, no problem. Then kind of go to the 10 minutes, or you could just go for the 10 minutes if you want to, but just know that if you can't hit those numbers, then you just want to back up a little bit. It's okay. It's okay to commit to less. Perfectly okay. Take it from me. It's fine. Or you don't need to take it from me. Just do it. Most important is to just take it from your own experience. Commit to less. Okay. So we have understanding your why. Reasons drive motivation. We have set a goal, know the North Star, back up and ask yourself, how am I going to get there? What's it going to look like? And make sure to really schedule it. We have commit to less. Commit to less than what you think you can do. We're looking for regularity here. We're not looking for like big impact. That's why like a yoga class once a week is a wonderful experience. But if you want to like build a trait, if you want to build your body to a point where it's like it's feeling really flexible and it's feeling, you're feeling really embodied, you're not going to do one yoga class a week. You're going to do yoga most days, but you might do less. You might do 20 minutes instead of an hour and a half. And it's going to have a bigger impact on you if you do 20 minutes a day versus an hour and a half once a week. So commit to less. Perfectly okay. Okay. Here is a really, really big one that's okay. Well, actually, before I even get to this really big one, make sure to make, so the fourth one would be make sure to make this part of your informal in your life in some way. So in other words, it's not just like a practice that you just have outside of everything. It kind of weaves into other parts of your life. So for example, many of you have heard of the term informal mindfulness practices. So, and then I created a term a while ago called semi-formal mindfulness practices, which are like just minute or two types of practices that you can do anywhere, anytime. That's like the stop practice is a great example of that. Stop, take a deep breath, observe what you're doing, proceed, observe how you're feeling, and then proceed with what matters. Variations of that practice, but see if you can just bring that sense of presence that you're doing in your practice into other things in your life. Just kind of bringing that in informally, and what that does is that supports the mindset and the attitudes that are going to support that meditation practice and your motivation for that meditation practice, ongoing. Bring it into your everyday life. Okay, fifth one, and to me, the absolute most important one out of all of this, 100%, the complete game changer in my personal life when it comes to my practice is to is exactly what Eileen just kind of was writing here in some way, which is to cultivate the people around you. Things are also important too, but the people are the most important thing. The people around you that are also going to be aspiring or wanting to do this in their lives, whatever it is, right? In this case, a meditation practice, say a practice in this way, or formally and informally, or you might call a mindful living practice. I call it something that kind of integrates both of them. And because those people are going to be sitting in your memory banks, because we remember people, and they're going to be sitting in your memory banks, and your brain uses your memory to remind it what's important to pay attention to as well. And so if you have more people in your periphery, even online, then, and you have connections with those people, you are way more likely to be motivated to continue on with that practice. And you know this because if you can imagine, like anytime, if you've ever been on a retreat or you've ever gone somewhere where there's like, you've gone to some place, for a while, and everyone's doing like the same types of practices and things like that, living in the same way, it's really easy to just fall into that space. But once you come back, and you're living in your other environment that's here where no one's really reminding you of that, it's really easy to fall back into your old habits. And so we are interdependent. There's a whole science around that. And so and I know in the How to Meditate program, I bring you through a process of really how to flush out your social circle, so that you can create it in such a way that is going to be helpful for you. I mean, let me ask a question anyway while we're here. How many people here, in creating habits, how many people here found that having a group to support you created a sense of accountability that increased your ability to do the habit? So let me ask you that. So go ahead and kind of chat in here. How many people here have found that, if you've ever had the experience of, or if you think that might be helpful to you, have found a group to support you, and you've been part of that group, and while you were a part of that group, it created a greater sense of accountability or inspiration to increase the habit and maybe enjoyment, and maybe it increased your enjoyment of actually doing it at all. Or how many of you even have groups like this right now? Just as an example, just to let the people know that these, things like this exist, right? So we see absolutely, definitely, yes, support groups help, yes, absolutely, community around practice, yes, so grateful, so great, supportive groups help greatly. That's someone else about who said something about being so grateful about something. And if you don't have a group like that, how many of you have even a desire to be a part of a group like that? And so gap between desire and reality of large go for chat. Okay. Okay. Jen Mosley, quality circle time. Want to swim 20 minutes a day. First find swim costume. Yep. Okay. So, right. So you're talking about having things in your environment, even like the swim costume. It's easier to stay consistent with support for any habit you're trying to build. Absolutely. Right. Okay. Yeah. The only group I have is the Mindful Living Circle. Beautiful. Yeah, that's the circles we have in the Mindful Living Collective. Have a group to share is basic, and I know by experience. Absolutely. Right. Beautiful. Right. Have a current group. My spouse is there in it. Okay. So Manish, that's my experience too. I also have a spouse that's, part of my inner core group. But not everyone has that, and that's okay. And there's other things out there. Yeah. Beautiful. Ellie, there's lots of people in the collective in New York City right now. Okay. So I just wanted to share that with you. So important. And so let me review those 5 things again, as you're writing this. So the 5 things again, and this is by no means a definitive list that doesn't have other things to it, but these are some core things that I found have been really, really helpful in making a practice that lasts. Again, first thing is understand your why. You may want to review that every morning if this is really important to you. After you go ahead and scribble that out, you may want to review that every morning as to, like, what is it I want to do? Why do I want to do it? And how am I going to do it? Right? And the why you really want to feel. The why is not just like something that's cognitive. You want to actually see it in your mind, visualize it, and see if you can notice how you'd be feeling in the future when that regular practice is happening. because your brain makes decisions, again, from the emotional center is like a major factor in influencing where you're paying attention and your decision making. And so you really want to kind of see if you can feel it when you do that. That's really important. Maybe even see how excited or good you feel, when you have that regular practice, and see if you can even imagine that feeling going on, because that's going to influence. If you feel something, that means that part of your brain is lighting up, right? So why? Set a goal, set the North Star. How am I going to get there? Make that plan. Commit, make sure to commit to less. It's okay to do that. You have full permission to commit to less. No problem. In fact, what we're looking again for is regularity, some kind of ongoing practice. Not that it needs to be a large type of thing, but something that's, many times a week type of thing. That's what really creates the change, is the consistency. Not like one bulk time once a week or something. It's like shorter with consistency is better than one bulk longer once in a while. And when it comes to any practice that we're doing, anything that we're doing, you want to schedule it like a doctor's appointment. We want to kind of just put it in our schedule. Where is it going to fit? That's part of the how. We want to see how we can make this informal in our life. So it's not just this one period of time during the day, but like there's these sprinklings of moments in the day too. So we can create these kind of mini memories in our mind for our brain to draw on, to pay attention to what really matters. And the biggest one, of course, is to cultivate the things and people around you and your environment to serve as inspirations, a sense of accountability. These can be found as various groups online and in the past offline, and those will be coming back again, of course. But I know that we've built we have about 4,000 people around the world who are currently in the Mindful Living Collective, really, coming together in these gatherings and live events and, smaller groups and larger groups and sharing resources and learning and stuff like that. And most of you here are all part of that. And so, or you might even be new to it. The key thing I want to add in here and layer in here, and then I'll go to some questions, is that the mindset you want to have towards anything all the time when it comes to making a practice that lasts is a mindset of learning. It's really all about learning. We're going to fall. We're never going to have a straight line of creating a practice that lasts. Creating a practice that lasts looks more like this. And those down moments are important moments to learn from, because they're our teachers. What's not working? Where did I fall off? And how can I learn from this and get back on and begin again now with this new learning? I know we've had people that I've worked with, like this guy, Mark, who is type A personality, super busy, anxious and depressed and, full of a whole bunch of bad habits. And, when he started going through this process of understanding his why and understanding where he really wanted to go and starting to kind of generate that visualization in his mind and starting to, really kind of get to sticking to certain times and making a schedule and committing to it, and then putting people around him that were also doing this, it kind of changed everything for him. His whole family noticed it, said they're loving the new him in some ways. So, I mean, like this is all really possible. If you've struggled with this in the past, it's really possible. I want to mention also something, before I go to Q&A and before I close, that, hopefully today you've learned a few things, or you've been reminded of a few things about, what it means to create a practice that lasts, and maybe some of even the science, around it, or some of this, certainly this methodology, that's here. So again, this all is, a short idea of what's kind of integrated in this How to Meditate program that that mindful.org is hosting, and they wanted me to extend to everyone here a 20% off offer if you're interested in going into that program. It's basically a for this group, for the Mindful Living Collective, that they were going to give this discounted offer. And I think that someone should probably be popping a link in there anytime, so you can kind of check that out for yourself. And I just want to answer any questions. I also want to go to any questions that you might have. Now's not the time in this time of this whole coronavirus and, everything that's happened. It's not a time to, retract from taking care of yourself or being good to yourself. It's not a time to be, allow fear to take over your life. It's a time to allow what's here. It's a time to love yourself and be kind to yourself and invite growth for yourself, to make progress with yourself. I mean, there's real opportunity here. And I know that we grow by supporting each other. We grow by lifting each other up. And by the way, whenever that link gets posted there and you want to see it, or check it out for that How to Meditate course, you're welcome to take that link and also share it with, I know we said it's for the Mindful Living Collective, but I'm sure Mindful wouldn't mind if you shared that with other people that were your friends and family or whatever. Again, we're stronger together. So when you go through something together, you automatically have those people within your immediate group that then become that accountability or inspiration or supporting person. So that only kind of benefits the rest of us. Okay, so for questions here, can you recommend a book of daily readings that inspire one to be mindful? I like The Miracle of Mindfulness by Thich Nhat Hanh. I'm a kind of a fan of that book. Very simple. I like well, let me just say, it depends what mindset I'm in. But I tend to like books that are written fairly simply, where the book is a little bit more contemplative, meaning like the shorter writings have a bigger impact than longer fluff pieces, which might be wonderful because they have lots of stories in them and things like that, which could be great to read. I tend to like those that are kind of shorter and create a contemplative sense, so it hits me in an embodied way. And so I like that book. The Now Effect was written like that. So was MBSR Every Day. It was written in that same way. I also have the Mindful Living card deck, which has short things like that. I know the mindfulness-based stress reduction card deck is coming out too, but probably till next year. Let's see. Those questions. Any suggestions, Kristen said, to start mindfulness with a 5-year-old and myself at the same time? Well, Kristen, I know that we have a mindful parenting group in the Mindful Living Collective. If there's any parents here, by the way, this group is being kind of hosted by two like kind of rock star women who are really doing a great job holding the space for that group. So that's where you can kind of share learning and resources. And so you'll get a ton of learning and resources in there. I tend to like breathing buddy practice with a 5-year-old. We put a video actually, and you'll find it in that mindful parenting group, of my whole family leading my 5-year-old at the time leading actually at the time that we filmed it, he was 4, leading a mindfulness practice, showing you how he can do it. You can get some greater insights there. But Susan Kaiser Greenland, who's a good friend of mine, came out with her Mindful Game series, which gives a lot of ideas, as well. So you can also check into that. Sierra says, any tips for bringing yourself back from the down moments when learning a new practice? Absolutely. 100%. And by the way, everyone here can expect down moments. I guarantee you, any person that you look up to and say like, wow, that's like this, mega legendary mindfulness teacher or whatever, something like that. They all have down moments. Trust me. So that's part of it. So with the down moments, what you want to do is you want to say like, oh, hey, I'm in a down moment, or this is a tough moment for me right now, or wow, I really lost my way. Something like that, right? The first is to just recognize that. The second thing is to recognize that, this is part of the practice. Part of making a practice that lasts is to have down moments. So now the question is, what am I needing right now in this moment? Like, what am I needing? So it's a classic self-compassion question. What am I actually needing right now in this moment? And to just be kind to yourself, knowing that's part of the practice and that you're not alone in this. This is like part of the practice of making a practice that lasts for everyone, is to have down moments. And then, after you're kind of moving to be kind to yourself and you kind of balanced your nervous system a little bit, you can look and say, well, how did that happen? How did I stray? once you get balanced again a little bit, then you can ask that question. And one way of getting balance is being kind to ourselves, giving ourselves a break or doing something, that you're needing in that moment. That's a way to balance your nervous system. And I mean, basically your nervous system is imbalanced when you're not getting something you need. So by understanding what you're needing and giving yourself that, you're going to balance your nervous system. And then you can look then from that place where you're a little more balanced, you can say, well, how did this happen? More with a sense of curiosity, right? You're having that mindful mindset. Like how did I stray? Did I get sick? Did I just get overwhelmed and stressed with life? Did I not have the people around me that I needed? And how can I take what I know now and add that additional layer and now begin again and begin again and beginning again until our last breath, begin again, 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 again. That's all. By the way, that's the same practice for insomnia. Let's see. Jose said, is it okay to combine the study and practice of Buddhism and with the practice of mindfulness? Well, sure, of course. I think it's okay to combine any of the world's wisdom traditions with mindfulness. Mindfulness just means awareness in some way, but it does have a lineage of certain attitudes. I mean, really the lineage of secular mindfulness is from Buddhism. So, and we can argue from different wisdom traditions saying, well, we also have mindfulness and we also have mindfulness, but whatever. So what I mean by that is you can take mindfulness and really like integrate it into any of the world's wisdom traditions. But certainly, there's a lineage back to Buddhism. So of course, Jose. Adelaide said, please explain the fourth key. The fourth key, I think, was the informal mindfulness piece. Is that what you meant by that? I'm going to wait till you respond on that before I go forward with that response. So many people, beautiful, are responding, in so many wise ways here. Tracy said, I continue to start my class online with our mindfulness practice for 5 minutes, and it really helped my students get through this difficult time. Yep, absolutely. And not everyone is ready for a practice, right? And that's okay. We're planting seeds when it comes to kids and teens and things like that. Aaron said, what's the most effective group practice you recommend to support our journey practice? So that's great. It's a great question. So in the Mindful Living Collective, we have these things called Mindful Living Circles, right? And so Mindful Living Circles is an opportunity to practice mindfulness, but in a relational way. In other words, what you're doing, and I led one of these larger group circles a week or two ago, where you're really kind of people who are listening or just listening and people who are sharing or just sharing. Everyone has a certain amount of time. They go around and people come out feeling, the last circle I said, I feel like I really landed. I was so busy today and I was all over the place and I feel like I really landed and came home to myself. Another person said, landed? No, I feel like I grew wings and now I'm like uplifted and flying. And so, what happens when you do this embedded relational mindfulness and you co-regulate together is you really have this impact on your nervous system that makes you feel like you're grounding or that you're lifting in some ways. Or a lot of people have that experience and can really be really heartfelt and grounded and connecting to yourself. So I think that's a great practice, just so we're clear about that. And when it comes to a group practice, these circles are a beautiful opportunity. And by the way, those are all available for free in the Mindful Living Collective. If you're new to the collective, you can certainly take advantage of those. We offer them almost daily. MTAC said, how to keep a practice and how to adapt new habits when challenging things happen. Well, I think I'll just go back for a moment to say, I think that's a similar response to that I gave with the other person who asked, what do I do in those down moments? Like, how do I handle those down moments? And again, we want to kind of always adopt this learning mindset as an overarching mindset towards making a practice that lasts. And at the same time, those moments when we wake up to them, we want to first recognize them as a part of this process. Everyone, experiences those. I promise you, even all the leading figures that you may say like, well, that there just must be a perfect mindfulness practitioner. They have down moments, I promise. And because they're all human. And then be kind to yourself because that's what you're needing. You really are needing that. But that you may do that in different ways. And then ask yourself the learning piece, which is like, how did I get here? And what do I need to build on top of this now to begin again? So now you have a new learning. You're actually stronger going forward than you were in the past. Kimberly said, is there a specific mindfulness practice that helps when a loved one is dying? There's a book called Mindful Grieving, and that's also been written about by a number of people. And there's a number of beautiful people in the Zen hospice who have written about that, but also many people in a variety of the world's wisdom traditions, who have worked with that. I would certainly, it's too exhaustive to answer in this time, in this space, but I would really kind of drop down, connect with your heart, and in a lot of ways recognize that everything and everyone is impermanent, and all things come and go, and there's really beauty and a lot of wisdom and a lot of traditions that speak to this. And I would invite you to just welcome the exploration into different traditions that you might know, or even into mindfulness, and kind of like dive into that with a sense of kind of curiosity and openness into what this might look like, for you. And it's certainly recognizing that it's really hard for many of us when someone close to us is going through a process of dying. And it could be something beautiful about it too. And so I welcome that exploration for you into those different areas. So the fourth key, for those of you who asked, that was really about bringing this informally into your life. So just more specifically, into creating maybe a morning routine for yourself that has some embedded mindfulness in it, around walking a little bit slower, noticing you're walking while you're walking. When you're drinking water in the morning, make sure to notice the sensation of the water coming in, taking a shower, taking all of your senses. Many of you have heard this, but that's what I mean by just making sure you're intentionally weaving these type of informal aspects of mindfulness into the day, which is also going to support the remembrance to do this other practice that lasts. Aaron said, where do you find them? The ones in the events section of the collective. Yeah, so if you're looking for any events in the collective, including the mindful living circles, just on the left side of the Mindful Living Collective is an area that's called events. Just click on that. There's a whole bunch of events, and you'll see a bunch of mindful living circles in there that might meet different times that are available to you. So definitely pop in and experiment with those. And Aaron also mentioned the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying is a great one. Yeah, so different things, so many different. And you might already have a certain spiritual religious tradition that you also want to incline towards. Yeah, so you can see the power of the collective here already. Teresa's saying the most important part for me was to practice being present in this moment. I don't know if that's in. Could the link be sent to the community email list? I wonder. Do you mean the link for the 20% off? Certainly. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll make sure to do that. Okay. I'm just looking up for any more questions. I know our time is getting short, so. So beautiful. I said, any links for your trainings? Yeah, we'll be having more trainings coming up right now, and so certainly be on the lookout for that. And those will all be listed in the Mindful Living Collective. And certainly, if you're on my email list, we'll be announcing those trainings. We have a couple of them kind of in the works right now. And I know a course in Mindful Living got postponed in response to the coronavirus kind of happening at the same time. But the beauty of it is that we started the Mindful Living Collective and allowed that to be open to everyone during this time that's happening here right now. Any more questions? Oh, please do share. Thank you, Laura. Super reminder, we'll share the Mindful Mastery page. Please do. Yeah. By the way, once you're in the collective, and again, it's free right now to everyone. So once you're in there, we have this thing called the Mindful Living Ambassador Program, which means it's very easy to let people know about it from within the platform. And if you do, we have different courses and things like that we just give away to you that is really wonderful. Okay, beautiful. I'm gonna look down to see if there's any more, and then we can all close with a practice together. Jose said, Elisha, please, can you give us your opinion on transcendental meditation? Jose, my focus has really been in the area of mindfulness meditation. But here's what I'll say about transcendental meditation is that when it comes to meditation in general, there's so many different types of meditations. And the mindset that I encourage anyone with is to go into anything with a beginner's mind and to experiment and see like, hey, what's this like for me? What do I notice? If this is good, it's good. If something's good, it's good. And until maybe it's not in some way. And then you learn from that. And so that would be my intention with transcendental meditation too. I know it's an absorbance practice. So it's more about being absorbed in a certain state than being present to just whatever is here. For me, with mindfulness, what the benefit I find with it is that it's training me how to just like be in my everyday life. With present, it's not just trying to create a state of mind, but it's training me to be a particular way that applies to my everyday life. So to me, it's incredibly practical, in that way. But when it comes to other types of meditations, I certainly would encourage, if you want to experiment with them, to just go into it with a mindset of curiosity and learning and just seeing what you notice and using that information to go forward. Oh, the Mindful Living card deck. Yeah, Anne, thank you. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, love that card deck. Yeah, a lot of people have mentioned that here. How do you practice mindfulness in your family? Wonderful questions, Rena. We created a video, about that. And my wife and I speak on mindful parenting quite a bit. And, we run mindful family retreats in like Costa Rica and Hawaii and stuff like that. We had to cancel this summer, unfortunately. But one of the things that we always do when it comes to raising a mindful family is to recognize like our own imperfections. And it's so important to recognize as a parent or with kids that it's going to be totally imperfect. And that's okay. Really what you're doing is you're creating memories and planting seeds. And even last night, yesterday, I was, one of the things that I think is important when it comes to raising a mindful family is to really recognize as a parent when you've made mistakes, and yesterday, in my own family, like I reacted in a particular way that I thought, very shortly after was unskillful. And so even though I turned to my oldest son, who I knew was watching me, and I said, like, the way I reacted there wasn't right, or wasn't the way I wanted to react, because I wasn't taking this other person into account. And when we really look at this other person, this is how they were probably feeling, and this and that. So, like part of it's about making repair. It's about allowing the imperfections to come out, but allowing the insight and awareness to drive actions that lead to, strength and repair with our kids and our spouses, if you have that, and certainly within ourselves. And so, my kids see me practicing, too, and they, so hopefully that's just kind of planting seeds. Just last night, even though I asked my son, my oldest son, by the way, because they do mindfulness in his school. My wife brought mindfulness to, the entire Santa Monica Malibu Unified School District. And there's a person in there that teaches in the classes. Now it's online, of course. And I said, hey, are you doing your mindfulness class? He's like, not really. I don't like mindfulness. And certainly understandable, because mindfulness takes his parents away sometimes, and that kind of thing. But just last night, he's like, oh, Daddy, I can't sleep. Can you give me a body scan? And so our kids routinely ask for that. So I know seeds are being planted. I know it's imperfect. And the beauty of it is to embed it all with awareness, at some point or another, and then, continue to move forward with sprinkling seeds all around, So there's no Sounds True program. I don't know which one you're talking about. Oh, you're talking about the mindful.org program. Valerie, if you're here, can you put that link back in there so people can have access to it? Yeah, it's mindful.org, not Sounds True. And I don't know if she's here anymore, but if she is, she will certainly grab it and pop it in there. I know this is being broadcast both Facebook and YouTube, so hopefully she'll put them in both places, and if not, then I will look to grab it for you. But I really want to thank you all for your attention and your intention in being here, and I know we will put that link in there, and maybe it's already there for all I know. And if it's not, then just wait for a second, and we will grab it. Maybe someone can find it up top and just grab it there. Well, I may have stepped away for a minute. Okay, well, we will find it and put it there. Hopefully someone has it. I think it's up here somewhere. Hold on, I'm gonna grab it from here. Okay, it's in the thread of it's in the thread. We'll grab it and post it again, and we'll send it out to everyone, so don't worry about it. Oh, Valerie, unfortunately, we had to postpone the retreat. Oh, that wasn't the retreat. Okay, Valerie, I think she was asking about the link to the 20% off link to the mindful.org How to Meditate program. So if you can grab that link and throw it in there, that would be great. So again, thank you, everyone. We look forward to continuing being with you in the collective. Again, the How to Meditate program is, to me, the most up-to-date program I have out there when it comes to, creating a practice that lasts. And mindful.org has been really generous in giving the 20% off right now. And you're welcome to take advantage of that. And otherwise, we look forward to being with you. Again, we're doing this, most weeks, and, within the collective, and always feel free, if you're in the collective, to personal message someone or click the need help thing if you're confused about where to find something. And, we're pretty good at getting back to you. So, so Eileen said, best place to look for starting over on your page. I wonder what that means. Other things that are coming up, by the way, just so you know, Amy Saltzman's giving a great workshop in the collective. I'm interviewing Dave Vago next week. On the science of meditation and self-transformation. I mean, so we have, that's what the event's going to be next week. And so many really wonderful mindful living circles and music events and shared resources, and look forward to being with everyone around this. Yeah, people are already answering all these questions. That's the beauty of community. Okay. So thank you again, everyone. We'll just take one kind of collective deep breath together. And sometimes in here, what we like to do in this virtual time, because none of us get that sense of touch from the people that unless you're outside your household. And some people ask for this on every event. So for those of you who are still here, I want to end with this virtual hug. And if this seems kind of corny, notice that as a judgment, come back and see if you can experience this for a second. So I want you to reach towards your phone or computer or whatever it is, and I want you to realize there's hundreds of people right now that are here, and that everyone is collecting around each other with a hug. So we're going to do this on the count of 3. You ready? 1, 2, 3. They're just coming towards, reaching around. See if you can sense the community here all around the world, embracing you with this warm, caring attention. Okay. I love to do that. You can really feel that, huh? Okay. All right. We'll look forward to being with you next time. Okay. Bye for now.